Welcome viewers to the Formula SimRacing AMA Championship round 12 at Brazil, and wow, have we got an absolutely action-packed race to share with you today. We're going to bring you the highlights of this 36 lap event, and there was an incredible amount of overtaking, some amazing battles, some amazing spirit, so sit back and enjoy the ride. I'm just going to pause for a moment here while the cars go on their formation lap to bring you up to date with qualifying. There's the full set of qualifying results for you there. You can see Mirko Mancini proving that winning the championship has not given him a reason to take his foot off the gas, metaphorically or literally, but again pushed very, very hard by Casper Nizio, who's fighting to come third in the championship this weekend. And take a look there at third place through to fifth place. Those three spots covered by 2,000th of 1 second, and the top 9 all within round about a second. So a nice strong qualifying effort by the grid here. And as is our usual habit, we'll show the overlaid or merged grids between Division 3 and Division 4 to show how was the pace of the Division 4 grid compared to Division 3. Division 3 in green, Division 4 in blue, just to show the relative qualifying pace of the drivers on both grids. So the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, a short track at about 4.3 kilometres, one of the shorter ones on the F1 circuit, and also the only one that runs anti-clockwise. So in real life it plays havoc with the Formula 1 drivers' necks. So we won't suffer from any of those issues in the virtual world as Mirko Mancini brings the grid round through the infield sector 2. It's a track of contrasts here, and as is often the case, there's a temptation to be seduced to run really low wing for the big long charge up the hill into the overtaking opportunity of turn 1. But the downside of that is low wing will potentially hamper your pace in sector 2, which isn't so much of a problem from being overtaken, but you can very, very easily overheat your tyres, and that's exacerbated by a low wing setup. So we will see some drivers with a little bit more downforce harassing like mad the drivers that have got a slightly more trimmed out aero configuration and trying to force the error late in sector 2. Both tyre compounds must be used, and a tank of fuel is good for 20 laps, so most of the drivers will run 19 or 20 laps on the softs and then switch to the hards for the run home. So as the grid approaches their starting boxes now and putting the final bits of heat into tyres and brakes and doing a few burnouts, I just want to take this moment to thank all of the drivers of the AMA division for turning up and doing 12 fantastic rounds of racing in 2021. It was a real pleasure to be here with you. Look forward to probably the best highlights package of the year. So the lights start to go on, 5 lights in total, a bit of smoke from hot engines. Cars being held on this slight uphill slope, and they are away and racing, and Casper Nizio has absolutely launched it and challenges Mirko Mancini up the inside for turn 1 as they round into the centre S's, and oh my goodness, there's contact. There's been contact between Mancini and Nizio. The other cars pick their way through. Nizio is off without a massive delay. Let's take a quick look from another angle, and we're going to do a little bit of slow-mo to see what happened. But before we do that, let's just have a quick look at Nizio's escape there. That's a full 360, and he is off and away before half the grid spawned down on him. So we'll slow this down slightly. So Nizio well and truly alongside or ahead at the point of turn in, so every right to compete for the corner. Keeps it pretty tight to the apex, but loses the rear end slightly. And just have a look at how much work he's putting in on that steering wheel. And this is in slow-mo, by the way. So the rear of his car kicks out and touches Mirko Mancini's car ever so slightly. No real harm done. Now from this line, Mirko Mancini can do very little other than concede defeat. So we've gone now to look at the telemetry, and you will see here Mirko's off the throttle, touches the brakes. He's backed out of it and endeavoured to concede the corner, but just didn't quite get out of the way enough. So there's no bad reflection on either driver. They both tried to facilitate a very good and clean overtake. You'll see here from this angle just how close they were to getting away with it, and the lightest of touches on the front wing of Mancini's car, and the rest is, as they say, was history. Now let's have a look at Thomas Smith from 5th on the grid. Has had a lightning start. He was perfectly positioned to take first place, but unfortunately having to get out of the throttle ever so slightly to miss the spinning car of Nizio, allowed Liam Howard to jump ahead of him. So now we have Liam Howard in the lead, followed by Thomas Smith, Alex Hallows and Giannis Lianos as the cars enter Sector 2. So this Sector 1 kerfuffle between Nizio and Mancini has absolutely blown this race apart. Liam Howard in the lead car, driving for a racing team, has had one podium, and that was back in the Le Mans event, and it must be said he's been charging hard ever since and ever improving. Thomas Smith, Dutchman with TR Bluvos, has 5 podiums to his credit so far and a race win at Belgium. Alex Hallows, running 3rd for Val Esports, has a PB of 4th place all the way back in Portugal. And then we've got a hard charging Greek driver from TR Bluvos, Giannis Lianos, rounding out the top 4. Jablonski in 5th from Ground Effect Sim Racing. Now we're going to introduce you to a story that's going to be one of the ongoing themes of this highlights package. Remember Casper Nizio, the guy who had the contact with Mancini at turn 2, lap 1. This is his rest of his lap 1. He's put his head down and absolutely flying. That's one car down. This is now competing for 10th or 11th place. Up the inside of Lincoln Martin, throws one up there, that very tight right-hander at the end of Sector 2. Junkau, I think it's called. Now on the gearbox of O'Reilly, engine still smoking because the oil temperatures haven't had a chance to come down yet. And Nizio now on the gearbox of O'Reilly. Nizio's car clearly trimmed out for pretty good speed. O'Reilly moves to the left to defend the inside and give Nizio the all or nothing option of driving around the outside. Nizio says, thank you very much, I'll go for that. And look at that recovery. Absolutely catches that rear end. That was what you call a major slide, but he's through, he's gained another position, and he's heading down the straight. However, O'Reilly has caught a toe, and it appears to be competing for turn 4 down the inside, and oh dear me, there's more contact. Nizio just must be wondering when it's all going to stop, and he's had 2 more cars go past him. We're going to have a bit of a look at that to understand exactly what happened. So to do that, we'll jump on board from the O'Reilly perspective and see that amazing Dukes of Hazzard style pass. Very clean, but really, really out there. And O'Reilly settles back thinking perhaps, well, Nizio's quick, I might just make discretion the better part of valor here. But no, it's too tempting to use that slipstream and try to put one down the inside. But it did not work out for O'Reilly, and he's cost himself about 9 or 10 places there and rejoins in 17th place. Let's now go on board for the slow-mo, and yes, we have significant overlap before the turn-in point, so O'Reilly is well within his rights to compete for the corner. Whether or not it was a good decision is another matter again. Nizio comes over, leaves a little bit of room, perhaps not quite enough, and O'Reilly taps Nizio in the midship and pays a slightly higher price than Nizio for the contact. So racing incident, had the right to be there. Whether or not it was clever is another question. Nizio has a bit of a half/3/4 spin, manages to recover it without going completely around, and ironically gets a slight tap from Matthias Harvig, which points him back in the desired direction. But you can see there 3 cars have passed or attempted to pass Nizio, and he is now back in 9th place. This is lap 2, and this is Garnier followed by Petrus. Petrus has an unfortunate off-piste excursion and reappears exactly where Garnier does not want to find him. This is lap 3, and this is Australian driver Sydney sider Scott Flack in a fight for position with Lincoln Martin. These guys are fighting for 7th place. Now Scott Flack has been displaying some blistering qualifying pace all season long, and he's just put enough pressure on Martin there to cause a bit of a slide, and that must have been Garnier's stationary wreck, and Flack is through. This is a recovering O'Reilly coming back from 17th place on lap 1, now challenging for 13th place, fighting with Gennari through the opening sector of lap 4, and O'Reilly manages to get cleanly by Gennari. A bit of a challenge back for turn 4, but the position is closed out by the exit of turn 4. This is lap 5, and Scott Flack now attacking Kamil Jablonski with a textbook manoeuvre around turn 1, and closes out that pass 2 laps after the original pass on Martin. Now we'll pause for breath. Lap 6 to give you the running order. That's Liam Howard, followed by Smith, followed by Lianos. But look at this group from 4th place through to 9th. Hallows, Flack, Jablonski, Nizio, Harvig, Mira, Martin. It is an absolute dogfight in this pack. And it's about to get a whole lot more intense for Alex Hallows, because Scott Flack, who's running behind him in 5th place, has decided that P4 is more him today, and he's got the car flying absolutely on Hallows' gearbox. Hallows moves around a little bit, but Scott Flack will not be denied. Throws it around the outside beautifully and closes out that pass on the exit of the Senna S's. Now this feeding frenzy for 5th place is not getting any less intense, and that's Alex Hallows in the yellow car, probably starting to feel like the main course. He's got 2 ground effect cars behind him. That's Kamil Jablonski, followed by the rampaging Casper Nizio of the first corner spin today, and Jablonski is through, going under Hallows. Beautiful move. Hallows gets touched slightly, costs him dearly, and of course that gives Casper Nizio the run down onto the back straight. The two of them will dispute the right to turn 4, but I don't think Casper Nizio is interested in any discussions today, and gets the position. That was Matthias Harvig moving off at a wayward angle there, and I think Perseus Miram, with designs on relieving Alex Hallows of P7. Hallows has dropped from 4th to 7th in about a lap and a half, and has had about enough of it. Now we're with the 2 ground effect cars. Kamil Jablonski in the lead car. This is a lap later. And Casper Nizio in the following car. Nizio taking absolutely no prisoners today, and that was for 5th place, incredibly. Lap 9, and O'Reilly has caught the next car in the queue. This is Thomas Lutzi, and that pass was for position 12 as O'Reilly's recovery from that lap 2 spin continues. The pack ahead is tight. There's 27 laps to go, and more can be done. Lap 12, 3 laps later, O'Reilly makes contact with Mihailo Vincenzovic, and just ahead of him is Lincoln Martin, and then not too far to the next driver. So O'Reilly doing his best to monster Vincenzovic into the final sector and try to force an error. Vincenzovic runs ever so slightly wide there, giving O'Reilly a chance to put the car beside Vincenzovic's car, but it does appear that Vincenzovic's car has a little bit less wing, and it's a drag race to turn 1 to see who can prevail, and Vincenzovic has a slightly faster car, and he is not taking any prisoners. This next pass is not going to be handed to O'Reilly on a platter. He's going to have to work for it. It's 2 laps later, and the fight is still on. O'Reilly piling on the pressure, especially in sector 2. Vincenzovic managing to cleverly place his car exactly where he needs to prevent the possibility of an overtake. O'Reilly throws it up the inside, grabs the apex at turn 10, maintains position and denies some track width to Vincenzovic, who can't really have an optimum run into Junkao and actually runs wide. We'll have a quick look at that from the onboard. This is lap 14, and you can see the 3 lead cars, Liam Howard, Thomas Smith and Giannis Lianos, have pulled a significant gap over 4th place, and Thomas Smith, the Dutch driver from TR Bluvos, has really started to ramp up the pressure on Liam Howard, has a fantastic run on him, grabs the slipstream behind Howard's car, dives to the inside resolutely for a big move into turn one, but he's got to pull it off, got to get it round the corner, and he manages to do that and still get a half tidy exit out of the centre S, although it looks to me like the Howard exit was slightly better, which is going to let Howard attack him back into turn 4 using Smith's slipstream. But Smith positions his car cleverly, steals the apex at turn 4 and closes out the deal at the exit of turn 5. Fantastic overtake, which now, and Howard hasn't given up yet, but no, fantastic overtake finally achieved after a great fight back from Howard. That was brilliant driving from both of them, and Thomas Smith now has the lead of this race on lap 15. Another nice battle looming, and this time O'Reilly is in hot pursuit of Lincoln Martin, and this time it is for 10th place. Martin running nicely up the order today in a good performance. O'Reilly piling on the pressure in sector 3, and Martin just running ever so slightly wide on the exit of Junkao, and O'Reilly is through, but it's not over yet because Lincoln Martin has jumped under the gearbox of O'Reilly and under the rear wing and is planning on fighting back into turn 1, which would be a bold manoeuvre. And Lincoln Martin overtakes beautifully around the outside there. Both drivers leave room for each other, keep it tidy, and Lincoln Martin has won back that position that he lost only half a lap ago. Big fight down the back straight, heading into the braking zone for turn 4, but Martin manages to hold the position. Let's see what O'Reilly can do. End of lap 16, beginning of lap 17, Matthias Harvig is attacking Alex Hallows for 7th place, deciding he'll have a bit of this action that he's been watching amongst his pack for the whole time. The lightest of contacts there, Hallows gets a little bit of a touch sideways, manages to keep going. Matthias Harvig suffers unfortunately just a little bit more, and these drivers create a little bit of a traffic bottleneck on the exit of the centre S. Let's just have a little look at that. Somewhat similar to the Mancini-Nizio touch. Just behind them, Lincoln Martin and David O'Reilly are still doing battle. This time O'Reilly tries his luck around the outside. Lincoln Martin defends very well. O'Reilly gets a good line out of the centre S's, but they come across that bit of a kerfuffle that we mentioned a second ago, and that is Matthias Harvig, Alex Hallows up ahead, and that slight hesitation just allowed O'Reilly to put it down the inside of turn 4 and finally clear Lincoln Martin after that fantastic defensive drive that Martin has displayed. It's 2 laps later, it's now lap 19, and O'Reilly has been on the gearbox of Hallows for about a lap and a half. Hallows not showing any chinks in the armour. O'Reilly on fairly worn softs, Hallows on slightly less worn hard, so the tyre battle is probably pretty even. But Hallows is positioning the car perfectly and not allowing any way through for O'Reilly. As they end lap 19, O'Reilly makes a decision to do the opposite to whatever Hallows does with regard to pitting, either undercut or overcut. Hallows dives into the pit and O'Reilly continues on. Now Alex Hallows has run the hard tyre, he's put up with the grief, and now this is his time to shine and unleash his soft tyre stint. But oh no, he has to pull up and wait behind the blue car of Perseus Miram. They had doubled up, they were using the same pit box, and Alex Hallows will now lose precious seconds and no doubt lose 8th place to what will be the world's biggest overcut, because next time O'Reilly comes around he will be through. Poor old Alex Hallows would be spitting chips at this moment in time. The leaders all pit without incident at the end of lap 20 and leave the pits in the same order they arrived. Smith, Howard and Lianos. Lap 22 and Smith has seemingly cleared off. Lianos piling the pressure on Liam Howard, but inexplicably loses the rear of the car at turn 4, Decido do Lago, and who was that sliding through? That was Casper Nizio, now in 3rd place. Unbelievable. Nizio has driven himself from 10th place on the opening sector back into a podium position. But wait, there couldn't possibly be more. Lap 24, this is the lead group. That was Thomas Smith. We'll look at the gap in real time. and this is second, third and fourth. Liam Howard, Casper Nizio, Giannis Lianos, and it looks like Nizio has not finished yet. He has got designs on grabbing second place from Liam Howard. Lap 25, middle sector. Nizio pushing like mad and gets over the curb there and creates a bit of a shocking sight for Giannis Lianos. We might just see how that looked from Lianos as on board. The things you get to see when you're fighting for a podium. Lap 26 and Lianos pressurising Nizio for third place on the podium. Nizio blows some tyre smoke, but Lianos loses the rear end and has to gather it in and loses some momentum. End of lap 27 of 36 laps, and this time Nizio executes a clinical attack into turn 1 on Liam Howard, who cannot reply to that one. Lianos piling the pressure onto Liam Howard, and this is for third place. This is for the final step on the podium and honours in the final round of the season. So Lianos gets a good launch out of Junkow under Liam's rear wing and using a lot of speed. He doesn't want to get his braking wrong like he did earlier in the race. He wants to charge there and execute a beautiful pass, which he manages to do round the outside. Howard tucks in behind him, but Howard, the body language of that car says that Howard is still up for the fight and has not given up on his ambitions of putting himself and his car onto the podium. And Howard goes around Giannis Lianos into turn 4. Amazing drive around the outside turn 5 and closes it out into turn 6. What a defence, what driving, guys. Lap 31, and this fight is still on. This is Lianos again on the gearbox of Liam Howard as they exit sector 2 and commence sector 3, the long climb up the pit straight. And Lianos is going to hope to get in contact with Howard's car and get enough of a drag from the slipstream to launch a big attack into the favourite overtaking spot of turn 1. And there's big numbers showing on that speedo, but unfortunately Lianos has misjudged his braking marker there and totally left the circuit. No damage, but who's that? That is Kamil Jablonski, past Lianos and into 4th place. Lap 32, and if you were Lincoln Martin, you could be forgiven for thinking that you can just cruise around in 10th place and hope for a bit of peace and quiet as you enjoy the dying laps of the race. But this is Mirko Mancini, who's had a tricky race but never stops fighting, and he attacks Lincoln Martin with a bit of an over and under move, beautifully executed and through, and that is for 10th place. And this is the final lap, lap 36 of this incredible race. And has Casper Nizio stopped trying? Has he given up and willing to accept second place? No, he hasn't. He is now going after Thomas Smith. He's closed that gap and he is fighting as hard as ever to try to get onto the top step of the podium. What an incredible drive from Casper Nizio. But the young Dutchman Thomas Smith will not be denied this, his second victory of the season. A brilliant drive once the opportunity was thrown into his lap. And you can see how much this victory means to Thomas Smith with this wild celebrations as he crosses the line, almost surrendering the victory, in fact, to Casper Nizio. What a great drive from both these guys. And Liam Howard, incredible fight to hang on to that podium position. Wonderful drive. That is Kamil Jablonski's best result of the whole season. Congratulations to Kamil. Lianos 5th. Scott Flack with perhaps the best drive of his season in 6th place. Perseus Miram with a really solid drive in 7th. Well done. Jumping to 8th. This is David O'Reilly with a pretty solid fight back from 17th after lap 1. And can you believe it? This is Alex Hallows still being attacked, this time for 9th by Mirko Mancini. Alex Hallows is going to need a cup of tea and a good lie down after this event. So that was the series champ in 10th place. This is Sean Jones after a tricky race bringing it home in 11th. And unbelievably, this, ladies and gentlemen, is a fight for position on the line between Mihailo Vincenzovic and Lincoln Martin. Awesome. Now, they were the last of the finishers on the lead lap, so I hope you enjoyed what was, in my view, quite an incredible race. There's the full set of results there on the screen. Congratulations to Thomas Smith on his win. Driver of the day, well, we spoke here in the commentators booth and did a quick straw poll, and we've handed that to Casper Nizio after his incredible fight back from the various contacts and travails that happened to him in the early laps of the race. To achieve second place after that was quite momentous. Another notable mention is Liam Howard, who has achieved only his second podium of the whole season. He's had a string of fourth places and some really strong results, but that was actually his second podium, so congratulations to him, and what a hard fought race, and he never gave up. Kamil Jablonski also, a shout out to him. Fourth place was his best ever result during the season. His previous best was a fifth place, so that was an outstanding drive from Kamil Jablonski. We'll have a quick look at his season in a bit more detail when we look at the season's results. Scott Flack also fought hard and pulled off some great overtakes to achieve sixth place, which is also his best ever result of the season, eclipsing his previous best of ninth place. And finally, put some of that fantastic qualifying pace together to give him a great race result. It did seem for many of the drivers on the grid a fantastic race with which to finish the season, so well done to all of them. So there is the full season's results, but we'll pull a couple of highlights out of there and draw them to your attention. Obviously enough, Mirko Mancini was a very dominant champion. Thomas Smith, his performances late in the season, particularly in the last half a dozen rounds, elevated him to a very strong and very clear second place in the championship. Giannis Lianos with a fabulous third, and Casper Nizio only 1 point away from equaling Lianos, and perhaps that was his motivation to be fighting to the absolute end today. Driver of the day, Casper Nizio. And I've mentioned some of these other ones. Liam Howard, best result of the season with his podium. I'm going to ask you to look at seventh, Kamil Jablonski. Just take a look at that season. Points in absolutely every single round. He is the only driver who has scored points in absolutely every single round. I'll let you look in detail at your leisure at the rest of the results. But what was the standard like of the racing? Well, Mirko Mancini at the top there. He did a reserve drive in Division 3 immediately following this race. And how did he get on? He won that one. So we've got a mixture of level 3 standard drivers in this series as well as level 4. So we had some very quick guys at the pointy end and some fantastic racing. So well done to all. Hope you've enjoyed the season. Hope you've enjoyed these highlights. I've been David O'Brundle, signing out.